Okay.
It's a bit lame, eh?
I was looking for like another cause and effect. I'm like, sunscreen.
Alice Hoyler, she doesn't like "You Will Be Missed." Love it. Alice didn't like some of the dad jokes, right? Maybe she does. She's just giving us a hard time. How long do we usually wait before we get started on proper, since we're right at the top of the hour?
I'd say we can get going with our section, and then folks will trickle in as we're going through our updates.
Okay. Well, thanks, Corey. Well, here we go. Let's see if I can get the so Google Meet navigation. Since we're in a Google meeting, this is a great little guide here. You can react by clicking on emojis, and your control panel is the second row below for things like muting and unmuting, raising your hand, a little hand icon to ask a question or have a remark, and then also there's a chat window, which we use quite a bit. So yeah, here's a good thing. I do this all the time, is speak on a meeting and I'm muted. So unmute for questions or remarks. And we are really lucky. We have Mr. Corey Niemeyer here, and he saves the day usually every meeting when we have technology issues, either user-wise or otherwise. So thank you, Corey, very much. And this is the Public Sector Change Practitioners webinar for June 27th, 2024. We've got a terrific speaker today. We have a few housekeeping matters before we get started with Gabrielle. So most of the board members are on today, and we devote a lot of our time for the PSCP. It's a labor of love, and we want to bring quality and valuable information. Lots of collaboration opportunities is the core of the DNA, I would say. And it's all about the impact of change for those who are receiving it. We'd like to see it be successful and contribute to that. So that's really our reason for being. So we're learning from each other. This is our purpose and direction statement. So we aren't really honed in on any particular approach. Very open-minded to all great ideas and great approaches. So that's the aspect of being agnostic in terms of change perspectives. And we are definitely a learning group, and we have inspired a lot of change in our own home organizations and also members and visitors with us at the Public Sector Change Practitioners. So the agenda, and this is not an intentional pop quiz to know what month and year it is, but it is June 2024. So we've covered jokes, purpose, and welcome, and we will talk about the board members and some announcements, and then we'll get to our keynote presenter. So here is your PSCP board. Michelle Malloy is the executive director. Elizabeth Solchik is the lead for communications. She's on with us today. Corey Niemeyer is the technology and analytics lead. He's on with us today. Patricia Nord is the lead of program support. I think she's coming on today. And Jamie Joy is the lead of production. And last is myself, and I focus on strategy and organizational development matters within our group. So we have one board opening for operations and learning development director. So it's a really important role. It really contributes to this type of communication product and improvements that we may be able to implement, and sets a training and development strategy, procedures, and whatnot. So if you have an interest in that, please reach out to us. We'll have more information on contact, website, etc. toward the end of today's webinar. And here is the key email for almost any question or inquiry you may have: info@pscp or pscpractitioners.org. If you have a project management professional or other type of project management institute designation or certification, and you want professional development units, you can earn some of those by attending today. We'll have a link toward the end of the webinar that you can click on and get some PDUs. Colorado Innovation Conference. This is a big one this year. Anything to note or add? Corey put in the link, but is there any verbal commentary, Corey, that you would like, since this is a passion area for you?
Yeah, of course. So we have quite a lot of excellent speakers lined up. We are opening it up this year to any government employees, so you are all welcome to join us. And hopefully we can have some very special keynotes. We did expand the topic, so we're going to include project management, change management, innovation, greening government, as well as like digital transformation. So it should be quite a great conference, and it's all virtual, so hope to see many of you there. That's all for me.
Thanks, Corey. And that's a little over a month away, sounds like. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have a bottom line. This is really about collaboration, shared encouragement, a safe place to learn and share ideas about organizational, program, and individual change. So sometimes this is the first leap for taking a step in that direction. So we're really happy that you're here, and please come back and join us, participate. It's a great group. It's really rewarding. And I think that's kind of a little bit of the tea leaves reading of the bottom line slide. Okay, we have a poll, and we're almost finished with some of our lead details. So I'm going to drop a link into the poll, but this is to help us with calibrating how we might want to look at topics for future webinars. So if you can, please go to menti.com, and there is a poll code, but I also dropped a direct link to that poll in the chat, and we're going to swap over video-wise to the voting panel and see what folks are interested in. So I'm going to swap our view here real quick. Mentimeter is pretty fun. It kind of adds a little bit of animation to, not that this is a dry topic, but boy, some meetings do have dry topics, and it's a game, it's a saver.
Yeah, I like to see which solution kind of gets knocked down and who's going in for first now.
Yeah. They're all great topics. I had a hard time deciding between at least 3 for myself. So,
Same. It's again kind of what my priorities are right now for work. So,
all right. Well, I think hopefully everyone had an opportunity to take a look and participate. I'm going to grab a screenshot of that. And so it looks like building resilience tactics is the crowd pleaser. We'll keep all these in mind. And thanks a lot for giving us your input. I really appreciate it. Okay. Gabrielle Bankers, thank you for being here to present some great information. You have a really, really interesting background. It's really cool to interact from somebody from the western side of Germany where you grew up, a little south of Cologne and Bonn and Dusseldorf and close to Belgium. So that is really, really cool. And also not to overshadow all your professional experiences that you've had, and really doing a lot of transformational work at City and County of Denver. So with that, how do we do this? I'm sorry, Corey and Elizabeth, do we let Gabrielle do a screen share now?
yep, so that way that she has
I would prefer.
control.
Yeah, I would prefer to change to share my desktop because I have Mentimeter too. So we're going to. Oh, it is not letting me.
Other side.
Hmm?
No, yeah,
Yeah. There, no. All right. Right there. Share. Okay.
come this way.
So let me see. Can you see this slide? Let me see.
Yes,
Yes.
I can see your PowerPoint.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to switch also to a Mentimeter later in the process. So welcome everyone. I greatly appreciate to have the opportunity to be here today, and you giving me the opportunity to learn with you and from you and together. I will dive right in. I'm going to utilize a tool today that is really an engagement and an involvement tool. It's highly adapted from the Change Style Indicator. And the purpose is really for us to learn together, but also I want to provide a tool that I've been using for years that has helped me engage all levels of leadership and frontline individual contributors into a change conversation when they were in the midst of change. And that has been a very great journey. And you can use other tools for this. This is the one that I found most helpful. So to dive in, I would love to share my why. Of course, I believe that change is part of the natural order. And we all know the quote, change is inevitable and growth is the option. And myself, I'm an early follower, pioneer, originator, whatever language you use for change. And one of the healthy stuff, the healthy side of that is that you show up and you can execute. The unhealthy side is that I build the bus and then drive at 150K down the Autobahn and wonder where everyone is. So for me, it's been a learning journey really to come back to the parking lot and really bring the blueprint or the idea and engage people very, very, very early on, people that are affected, involved, that are important to the change, and really engage with people at a very, very early stage. And so that's the backdrop also why I use the tool that I'm going to walk through in a few moments here. The questions that I constantly ask myself, the backdrop for that is like this group here, in this virtual room, is a group of change professionals, change practitioners, change leaders, change managers. We support change, we lead change. And what we know is that behavior drives failure and success in change. We know that reactions can be so varied. We know all the gurus and the tools and the models, right? We know ADKAR, we know the Kotters and Goleman and all the work and all that. We need to bring it together every time. We know that communication is pivotal. We know that the change narrative, what, the why, the what, the how, is key to all that we do. We have seen successful changes, organization-wide or smaller changes in teams, and we are always also subject to change, small or large, in our life. So the questions I ask myself as a change practitioner is, how do we even know that we are generating the right sense of urgency? How do we know that we generate the accurate or the reaction that we are after with employees or people that are involved in change of any level? How do we know that we're launching the right communication that really reaches and resonates everyone? And how do we close potential gaps? Most of you probably have seen this graph. It's called the assumption trap. And when we are leading change or helping to manage change or supporting an implementation of change, we have a very early level of awareness and understanding. We have accepted the change, and most likely we are already committed and running the change. We as practitioners in the change space are extremely aware of that. When we lead change or when executive leaders engage with change, they may assume that the employees here on the blue curve are exactly with the red curve, but that is seldom so. The people that have not heard about the change enough or experienced it or have engaged with the change are most likely on the blue curve and have a different level of awareness and understanding and acceptance. And so to close that gap, we employ all the tools available to us. And one of the tools that I use is an early engagement and involvement of everyone involved in the change. So I've had groups up to 50, 60 people in the room engaging in person with the tool that I'm about to present. And the reason why I love this so much is early engagement is critical, but it can also be a huge reward for humans to be involved and to be heard early on, during and after the implementation of change. Many of you, so again, two purposes for today: your own and my self-awareness and growth, and to provide you with a tool that you can utilize in your change efforts. Many of you are probably aware of the change style indicator by Discovery Learning. This is very, very highly adopted, adapted with permission, because not every team I work with, since I'm in government especially, not every team has the budget to do the change style indicator assessment. If you ever do, and if you have worked with the change style indicator, it's very, very good, and it makes for a lot of great conversation, especially for leadership teams that implement it. So the way I use it is a highly, highly adapted version of it. The language in the indicator assessment is conservers, pragmatists, originators. Similar to many other change curves that you are already aware of, Bridges transition model, Rogers innovation curve, do kind of the same. The assessment puts us in a continuum of a change style. It measures the preferred style that we have in change. So I want to give credit to Discovery Learning. The tool comes from them. I have not used the assessment very often simply because of budget reasons. So we use an adapted version here. And what I would love for you to do right now is take a pen and a notepad and absorb this slide and feel out or think about where might you fall as a change practitioner in a general tendency. Where might you fall with your change style? Are you more of a conservator, pragmatist, or originator? Do remember, as with all assessments, none of these are good or bad, right or wrong. There are strengths and contributions, and there's traps and challenges. Remember my example with building the bus and driving at 150K down the Autobahn? That is the trap and challenge side of me being an originator. The strengths are also very clear, right? Change catalyst, change transformation. And I bet a lot of us fall into that category, not the bus category, the originator category. So take a moment, I'll give you a minute to absorb the slide and take note where you fall. Be diligent in assessing yourself because you will need that awareness for the next few engagements and the next few slides. And I will measure time, don't worry about time. I will give you a couple of minutes here.
Hi, Gabrielle. This is Doug. Do
Yep.
you ever find yourself split personality on a few of whether you're a conservator or originator? And
Yeah.
I guess pick where you most fit, I guess would be good.
Yeah, right now, only work with your general tendency when you lead change or as a change practitioner, not necessarily in change in life. We do shift styles depending on what change. I call it shift styles, not split personality, but we definitely change. Right now, for the purpose of this first exercise, I would love it if everyone could think about their general tendency as a change practitioner in this forum.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and that was a couple of minutes. We'll come back. I think because we have an audience here that is very savvy with change, this may have been not very hard. And I'm certain there are people on this call too who have used the change style indicator. Okay. So I want to highlight again, copyright is with Discovery Learning for the actual assessment. This is highly adapted and it may not be precise, and that is fine for the purpose of our exercise here today. I also want to highlight again, this is usually done in person. And when you do it in person, you can add questions to this already, right? You can ask people how to best communicate and work with us in that style. You can have conversations here already, and we will have a couple of engagements and interactions here in a moment. And again, you can use any curve really for that. I have even used the detailed bridges model, transition model, and used the whole space of a large room to have people stand in their theme. We can stand in our theme today, but we will do an exercise around that. I would like you to take another minute here to think about your top strengths and top challenges in change. Again, think about it from the perspective of you being a change practitioner or professional manager or change leader. And I'll give you a couple of minutes for that. Be diligent. We'll need it later again. And then we'll do some interactive pieces here. And maybe it would help if I bring up both slides so you have strength and challenges with. So let me see if I can do this here a little better. So we have both slides here, and let me make this a little bigger right there. Does this help if you have both slides, maybe?
Yes. GB, Hannah has a question for you.
Yep.
They want to know who is typically included when you conduct this exercise.
Yes, so it depends. Of course, OD, right? It depends. Typical answer. Leadership very often first, and the people that are driving the change first for the awareness. But I've also have done many engagement where everyone affected is engaged. Now, if you have an entire organization in this change, it's not possible to bring 1,000, 1,200, 1,400 people together. But what I've done then is bring all the leaders together, supervisor and upwards. That is how I usually do it. And I will provide an example of one of those.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay. Does everyone have their top 5 and top 5 challenges? And if you don't have 5, if you have 3, that's brilliant. So don't worry about it. It's completely. All right. So I'm going back to my presentation here. Does anyone dare to share a couple of strengths or challenges in the chat? Oh, that's right. I can't go into the chat. Doug, can you help me with the chat?
Yes, we can help supervise.
Sure can.
Thank you.
Okay. I know. I have on my
Sounds like someone is open mic there in the background.
Okay. Yeah, stay. Nothing's happening.
Dania, can you mute yourself, please?
I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna remind him of this email he sent.
Yeah.
So,
Stuff happens.
yeah, so I'm just.
Okay. Do we have any
yeah.
data shares in the chat?
Jerry says that they believe in the premise. They're a top supporting and driver for change. Hannah says they're easily influenced. Sarah says a challenge is sometimes I move too fast and need the group to buy in before they are ready to move forward. Jessica says their strengths are they're a mediator, they're outcome focused, their drive to produce and finish line, their supporter, cheerleader, and their relationship builder.
Nice.
Alice has a strength that says bringing people together and focusing on the realistic results, but a challenge is being indecisive and maybe needs lots of input. Heather says they're a strong influencer and can help folks get on board, and they can help gather buy-in.
Nice samples. Very nice. Thank you for sharing. And I will definitely absorb the chat as soon as I can. I love learning from other people. That's why I love coming to an event like this. Okay. So now I would love for you to take just a 20-second self-reflection again based on your experience with the last couple of tasks. Imagine a check mark here where you fall. So for me, that would be right under the O of the originator. That's where I usually fall. Discovery learning tells us that the usual distribution is about 25% conservers and originators and 50% pragmatists. I have seen completely different distributions depending on where. For example, we did an assessment at Department of Aviation many years ago, and we found only 8% in originator, about 50% in pragmatist, but the rest was on the conserver side. And in a highly regulated compliance environment, I wasn't quite surprised, right? So depending on what industry I've worked with, there were different tendencies, I would say. But according to their research, there's about a distribution of 25, 50, 25. So if everyone has a rough idea where they fall, I would love it if you would go to Mentimeter. You can scan this QR code or go to dementi.com, use the code, or use the link here. The QR code is usually the fastest. And I will make this bigger. Just a second. I'm just going to toggle between the... Okay. So I'm going to leave this slide up until everyone is in, and then I'm going to show. And please, again, think about where you fall on the continuum that you're going to see on Menti pin, where you think you fall as a change practitioner. That's our first interactive here. And for the very first one, think again about your professional role there and leading change or managing change. Okay, so I'm going to go to the Mentimeter, see what comes up. Okay. Can everyone see the Mentimeter slide now with the pin?
Yep. Interesting
Awesome.
distribution.
Yeah. And we'll wait a few more seconds here. Okay. The last ones are trickling in here. And for those of you who are interested in using this tool virtually, I have tested Mural and also Miro, but it requires a lot of tech savviness on the side of the participants. And so I decided to use this feature in menti.com. It was just very much easier than Mural or Miro. Okay, I think we are seeing a distribution here all across. And so the point here is also all have different styles. None of it is right or wrong, right? Again. And when we talk about conservers, for example, we are not talking about resistance for resistance sake, right? We're not talking about resistors. We're talking about people that may need a bit more detail, more information, and are just a little slower to change. And originators equally can have a bit of a reputation for running without bringing others in. And the pragmatists sometimes get caught in the middle. So what's important here, if you do this in person with teams, is that you engage the team in questions such as, hey, conservers, what do you need in this particular change that we're going through? What do you need from the pragmatists and originators? And likewise, you ask the pragmatists what they need and the originators. So this is the beauty of this tool, where we then engage in a real conversation. And one of the examples I can give you that made me think even further on this tool and keep using it was that we had a chief of staff on the edge of originator, past the arrow in the room. So I have signs, of course, in the room. And if you can, use a whole wall and have painter's tape across the wall, and then 3 signs, right? And he was on the very, very right-hand side of originators. And my frontline supervisors were in the conserver side. But what that meant was not that they're generally conservers. They realized through the conversation that the supervisors had not heard enough about the change. They hadn't experienced enough about the change. And the chief of staff stood there and said, OMG, I am really not good at communicating. And that was a pivotal moment where he realized, but he also said it out loud. So the frontline supervisors that were really not involved enough in the change had an opportunity to see that and hear that and really hear the chief of staff say, wow, I must be doing a really job in communicating, right? So again, in person, it is a bit more powerful if you want to use it there. We're seeing a nice distribution here that really shows us that there is a variety of styles. So in the example that I just gave, I brought the conservers and pragmatists literally to the other corner in the room and have them ask questions of the senior leaders, because what we also had is a bunch of senior leaders in the originator theme. And they were running with the change. And it was a big realignment. It was a big transformation from a department to a completely different department. And so this gives you the opportunity to really engage. I have another one for you. So let me come back here for a sec. And so now I want you to think about a change that was done to you, a change that you may have not agreed so much with, and feel out where you may have fallen with that change. Think about like maybe a personal change even, or a technology change. Like in the city, we went from Kronos to Workday, and I did a little engagement there with a small group, and they were pretty much on the conservative side because they felt, hey, there weren't enough information. There wasn't enough resources. This is hard. We don't know how to do this, and we don't know how to do that, right? So feel out a change that was done to you and think about like, where did you fall then? Was your change style, your change reaction differently? And I'll give you a few 30 seconds here for self-reflection, and then we're going to do a pin on image again.
Gabrielle, we have one question in the chat.
Yes.
And if it's okay, I'll read that to you.
Sure. Yeah.
So Hannah posted, when is this activity most successful for your change plans? So and initiating, planning, executing, etc. Thank you.
Yes, I've used it in all phases. Unfortunately, sometimes I will be called when it's pretty late in the change and when leaders realize something isn't going well. It's still not too late then, and you can generate some powerful forward move if you get stuck. So when you get stuck in change is a really good moment to utilize it. But I prefer also to think strategically and proactively. So I've used it in the very, very beginning and then tailored my questions to what do you need if we launch this? What do you need during the implementation, right? So conservers, pragmatists, originators could really, really engage. In one group that uses the Rogers Innovation Curve, I have then, of course, different questions like, what would it take for you to come on board? What will you need, right? Those kind of questions. So I prefer to use it to check in at the beginning, middle, and end. So building it, implementing, and also measuring past execution and past how are we doing? How are we feeling about the change now that it is implemented? So I think depending on what tools and models you use and what interventions you do, use it as a strategic point, a strategic method there. Long-winded answer again on typical OD, it depends. So once you have made up your mind of where you fell with a change that was done to you, I'd love it if you could go to Mentimeter again, different code here, different scan, and then we'll see where we fall. Doug, am I good on time? I have about 4 more minutes.
Yeah, you look great. We're at 10:40, so I think we have plenty of time to wrap up by the end of the hour. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I have about 4 or 5 minutes depending on questions. So, and then we have time for Q&A. All right, I'm going to switch to Mentimeter to see where we are. Let me go back here. Just a second. It's not reacting very fast. Here we go. Let me get that up and running. And present. Okay, what are we seeing? Does anyone dare to speak up loud and give some reaction and perspective?
We shifted to the left.
Yeah. Right? Which also proves the point, like all assessments, none of them are static, right? All of them are dynamic because we're humans. And depending on situations, we flex our styles or we react differently to different things. Anyone else dare to share a perspective or reaction?
Denise shared that no one appreciates change being imposed on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all want to be involved, right? As I said, early involvement is critical. It's also rewarding for humans to be heard and to be seen in these changes. And if leaders who implement change do not address that very human side, change is going to be so much harder. And we as practitioners, change professionals, managers, leaders, we know why change often fails. And it is usually a lot on the human side. So thank you for engaging with that. I want to do one last one to bring home another point, and that always is fun in the room. If I told you that you have to open a X account today, where would you fall? Would you be more on the conserver reaction, the pragmatist reaction, or the originator reaction? Where would you fall? And for that, let's go one last time to Menti. All right, I'm going to switch to Menti. All right. Again, we're seeing a different distribution. Anyone dare to share why the reactions in this space are again different and different than when I lead change or change is done to me?
I'll bite Gabrielle. I think it's, we're kind of on that same edge of the spectrum there as far as responses from the previous yeah, if you're in a log jam of trying to get your daily whirlwind of activities done, having to use a new, let's say, social media platform like X or Twitter and set up an account and things like that, you're going to say, oh, I don't know. It may not be as bad as one would think, but sometimes until you actually go hands-on, probably more in the pragmatist type center or the other side. That's just my kind of gut reaction of personally.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Denise says there's not enough information as to why we need to open an account.
Yeah.
And Connie says this is a personal matter. Employers don't have jurisdiction over my personal choices.
Very good. Yeah. Personal choice plays a big role in life, in our regular life at work. Sometimes we cannot avoid change at all, right? We can't. But with personal choices, we can react any way we want. And that is also a big difference there. And then, Doug, to your point as well, of course, right? Yeah, it doesn't fit. It is not what I need right now. But again, opposite to the change that's done to you or the change you're leading, you have a bit more of a choice here, right? So choice plays a really big role in all of this. And we always have the choice to be a pioneer or not. We always have a choice to engage with change or not. And for us as practitioners, it can be hard to engage with everyone. In your, so I want to see if there are any other, sorry, my slides. If there are any other reactions or perspectives on these three dynamics. Again, when you have the opportunity to do this with an intact group or an organization, I've had up to 60 plus people in the room. It was very beneficial. And when you have that opportunity, you can tailor this completely to what you need to ask to close any gaps or to overcome assumption traps or to overcome senior leaders being way ahead of the rest of the team. So any other reactions or perspectives on that last piece here?
Yes, I have a question. When you have your senior leaders that are not originators, maybe they're further closer to conservers, do you see where that can cause trouble with change or getting stuck because your leadership isn't on board, or you can others see that? It sounds like in general your originators are your leadership folks, but I'm just curious if you have seen that where, oh man, we got our CEO's a conserver. How do we manage that?
Yes, I have seen that. And in one of the big transformations of a department in the city, it was actually a lot of blocking even. It was stronger than even conserver. There was resistance. And the CEO had to set some very clear expectations. And we worked on talking points with those expectations. And he had to do a lot of work with especially, I remember 4 directors, very clear conversations there around what will it take for you to come along and make this happen, because we're not going back to the old ways. Yeah. And as practitioners, we know laggards or resistors or strong conserver in a pivotal change, we have to lean in and we have to have the conversations. Yes, we focus energy on our followers and pragmatist originators, right? And our change champions. But for conservers and resistance, we have to lean in. And that's what we did in that case. I have seen something very similar too with a smaller change. And there was a lot of energy spent first, and then just it was no choice anymore at the end. Okay. If there are no other reactions, let me come back here. And ultimately, I just really want to express my gratitude for letting me learn from and with you today. For me, this is always a bit of a stretch, as by nature, I'm a bit of an introvert. And so I'm going to walk in solitude right after. And I would appreciate any and all questions, and I'll come back from the presentation.
Awesome. Hannah has her hand up for a question.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
I think my question is around the language around the kind of pragmatist conservers, all of that. It kind of reads to me as like conservers being viewed in a negative light, and I'm just curious how you have overcome that or addressed that when doing this activity, because I have a particular group I would want to do this activity with, but I worry that they might not be fully transparent because they wouldn't want to be perceived a certain way.
Yes, very clearly. Often, so the first thing I do is really explain my healthy show up and my unhealthy show up as a facilitator, right? The bus example and others. I have another example when I was a leader and I really failed to communicate. So I bring those examples first, and then I ask the group for examples for the healthy show up healthy, show up a little unhealthy. And I make the point at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end multiple times that none of these styles are good or bad, right or wrong, and that we don't talk about resistance for resistance sake. That's not conserver, right? And conservers and originators get a bad rap, and I openly talk about that. And I also talk about pragmatists being caught in the middle. So I do address it multiple times. That doesn't mean that people always hear it. But I do address it multiple times because there is a general tendency in us, right? We are all our own worst critic. So what if, and then there is, of course, psychological safety. So I have to pay great attention to that as well, depending on what team I am facilitating with. I actually do warm-ups for psychological safety first, if that's needed. So those are all the pieces we have to definitely consider, yes. Thank you for that question and giving me the opportunity to clarify there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have time probably for one more couple minutes, and then we'll use the final 5 to do our closeout items. And anyone else?
Tips how to give effective feedback to senior leaders. There's a couple in the chat, I think I see. Lisa is asking, do you have any tips on how to give effective feedback to senior leaders whose style creates fear, uncertainty? Yeah, direct. Yes, so we talk about impact. What I do with leaders is I talk a lot about impact. Here's how you showed up, whether you meant it or not. The impact that you're having is this. And I talk a lot about impact. Like, if I come to you and say, I can't be the colleague that I want to be because of your behavior, then I will change my behavior. So with senior leaders, you have to do the same, because senior leaders shape the culture, shape everything we do in an organization. And so that belongs in that conversation. Very direct. Here's what I saw. Here's what your people are saying. Here's what the data tells us, if we have data. And here's the impact that you're having.
Hey,
Stephen
Doug,
has
can
a
we
question.
have, yeah, I was going to ask if Stephen could do his question too.
Yeah, Steve Buckley. When you were talking about the light bulb moment when one of the senior leaders recognized that he was a poor communicator, is there something? Is there a quick or easy way to do that for that reality check, so that the originators don't get too far out, or conservators aren't too slow, or is there a reality check on, I mean, like an employee survey or something that's easy to do, maybe using Mentimeter? So go
Yeah.
ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Use everything available to you to close that gap. In this case, I had the opportunity to close the gap right then and there in a moment because they were standing together in the room. So I brought the conservers and pragmatists to the corner where the CFO, the COO, CEO, and the chief of staff who had made the comment were. And then I had the pragmatists and conservers ask them questions directly on the change, and they were able to answer it. So if you can, with this exercise, I'm always happy when something like that comes up because one, I have that defect that I love big challenges, right? But I'm always happy if it comes up in the moment because then you can shift. So when you do this in person, do preserve a whole hour if you have a large group, like 30, 40 people for sure. So you can facilitate smaller group conversations over here, or you can bring people to ask questions to each other and have them ask each other's question. Does that answer your question, Stephen?
Yeah, I was just hoping there was something shorter, like a banger
Yeah,
Mentimeter question, like a reality check. Boing,
sure,
ask them this question
sure.
without a practitioner there. But thank you.
Yeah. If you don't have a practitioner there to facilitate, then definitely use all your resources on surveys, Menti, whatever it takes. Yes.
Well, how about a round of virtual applause and confetti and other things for Gabrielle? Because this was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Whew, no pressure.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
So to wrap up for today, thanks everyone. We had, for the most part, over 80 folks attend, so that's a pretty big one. If you look in the chat, there is a link to a survey form for professional development units, if that's something that you like to want to collect for your Project Management Institute activity. PSCP website, one of the CDOT interns, Remy, has done some amazing work on refreshing the look and reorganizing content. So a lot of great updates over the past few months have taken place if you haven't been there for a while. We have a LinkedIn group. It's pretty robust. Shows 224 members. I think we're way over that now, maybe a bit. And we usually get new members and not a lot of people that say they don't want to stay. So that's pretty awesome. Thank you, Corey, for dropping that link into the chat. And the YouTube channel. So this webinar and all our other webinars will be posted in the near future. So if you had to leave, or you have colleagues, or you couldn't make it today, you can always go back and play those back. And I do that a lot myself when I'm stuck on things and I need some smart help on a topic. I'll go and get a quick video injection of good information. So that's pretty awesome. We will not have an August webinar. A number of people at PSCP, members and board members as well, are going to be at the Colorado Innovation Conference. So for government members, man, it's a hit parade this year. So think about it. Corey has put in links in the chat, and you can also do web searches for Colorado Innovation Conference. If you can, it's all virtual. It's a great lineup. Hope to see you there. And with that, we're 1 minute before the hour. So thank you. Thank you. We'll see you at the Innovation Conference here in August.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.